Did the 9/11 terrorists intend to fly a fifth plane into a building? Several crew members of United Airlines Flight 23 are convinced of this because they saw several suspicious things on board their plane. United 23 was due to take off around 9 a.m. from New York City's JFK Airport. Like the other planes used in 9/11, it was a cross-country flight, in this case, bound for Los Angeles, which meant that it was fully loaded with highly flammable jet fuel. While boarding passengers and preparing to taxi to the runway, there were several incidents that struck crew members as strange, although they seemed harmless at the time. The flight attendant noticed a passenger in business class who appeared highly nervous, sweating profusely despite wearing only a t-shirt in the relatively cold airplane cabin. Also, in first class, the purser got into a minor dispute about food with 4 passengers. Man in a tan suit, a young boy around 6 or 7 years old, a man who seemed to be a bodyguard, and a woman in a niqab, or full body covering. However, the crew became suspicious that the person in the niqab was actually a man, because they had large hands with hair on the back of them. The group had said that they did not eat meat, so the purser spent a long time trying to get them fruit plates. But they were insistent they did not want to eat and wanted to take off as soon as possible, even though it would be a very long flight. One of them also asked if they could visit the cockpit, because the child really wanted to see inside. At 8:46 a.m., the first plane flew into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Reports of the hijackings took time to percolate out through the U.S. air traffic control and military grapevine, so when the captain heard about it over the radio, he assumed a small plane had accidentally crashed while trying to do something stupid such as flying between the towers. However, that day at JFK turned out to be unusually busy, and Flight 23 was stuck in a queue behind 10 or so other planes. Hence, it still had not taken off when a second plane hit the South Tower and United's dispatcher warned all transcontinental pilots to beware cockpit intrusion. Pandemonium ensued as all flights across the U.S. were grounded for fear of further hijackings and JFK Airport was evacuated. The captain and his co-pilot barricaded the door, readied improvised weapons, and taxied back to the gate while passengers frantically called their loved ones to let them know they were safe. Then came the incident that truly alarmed the crew. Airport workers on the ground observed someone running inside the plane, visible through the portholes, after all the passengers and the crew had left. Staff had already checked the whole plane for stragglers and were quite sure nobody was left on board. The next day, all crew members were interviewed by the FBI. Investigators found that one of the hatches in the plane's floor, leading down into electronics compartment, was open, which could not have happened before the passengers disembarked because they are bulky and block the whole aisle when raised. Worse, airline staff later found box cutters, small knives used in at least 2 of the 9/11 hijackings, concealed in a seatback pocket of another plane that had been sitting next to Flight 23. Its tail number was 6001, very close to United 23's 6002. Joining these dots, the crew now believe that these box cutters were planted ahead of time by an undercover terrorist, perhaps working for the airport or one of its private contractors. They were meant to be used by the hijackers, but through a simple mistake, they were put on the wrong plane. Then, when the plot failed, someone, perhaps the same person, snuck on board Flight 23 in an attempt to remove the evidence, explaining the person seen running and the hatch left open. There has long been speculation that the 4 planes hijacked on September 11 were not the only targets. In 2004, the U.S. government's 9/11 Commission reported that al-Qaeda mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed initially hoped to hijack 10 planes. After the attacks, box cutters were also found on 2 long-range Delta Airlines flight and an American Airlines flight. An FBI report made public said that the seat where they were hidden had been occupied by a Saudi Arabian pilot who had previously attracted suspicion from the agency. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for this channel. Do you also have a crazy story tip? Let us know in the comments.